Good morning, friends. Today I am going to be playing with my watercolor pencils. Um, I have numerous different watercolor pencil sets. I seem to always end up navigating back towards the Artisto brand. This is their 72 premiums. I also have their smaller set, which is the 48. And I've got these, which are quite a bit more expensive. And you know what? I think this is a very unique choice for all of us. I really like these. I tend to go back to these over and over. So that's what I'm using today. So you get the 72 colors. You've got 3 pans here. I'll be working a lot in with those. Here's the second pan if you're curious about the colors. And here's the third pan. So lots of really beautiful colors in there. And then I'm working on, these are the Artisto pads, cold press paper, watercolor paper. Make sure you're using watercolor paper. Again, the cold press has a little bit of texture. That's just what I happen to like. I know a lot of you said you like the hot press with the color pencils. Totally fine, guys. Use what you're comfortable with. So I started playing with this little lemon here, and then I, excuse me, drew in some leaves here, and I'm going to paint those for you using the watercolor pencils. Now, the other thing I did is, because watercolor pencils for me, they were a little bit difficult to see exactly what the color was. Based on the color of the barrel. So I did swatch them out. And, you know, to be very honest, I love swatching my colors out. So this one, for instance, is fern green. So as you can see here, it's a little bit different. This pencil seems, the barrel looks a lot darker. And I just put the color pencil on here, watercolor pencil here, pulled it over, and I just like to do that so I can see what colors I'm going to be using. And I think these actually took up 2 pages. Let's see here. Yeah, here's more. Look at how beautiful they are. Aren't those pretty? So I always swatch out my pencils, my paints, markers, everything, so I can refer to those. So like I said, I already did the lemon. Then I thought, you know, I think I'm going to share the leaves here. And this is, I've really been having fun with these because they're so easy. I mean, I can take these anywhere. I can use a water brush, which I didn't with this one, but a water brush is nice, and I'll show you what that is. So this is a water brush. For those of you that might not know, you can skip forward. It's just these little brushes, and you unscrew the cap and you put water in here, and it's even more portable. I went ahead and I'm just going to use my number 8 brush. You know, this is my brush set, but the Princeton Velvet Touch is fantastic. So this is the 8 round, that's what I'll be using. So what I'm gonna do first is, I did already draw out some leaves here, and I'm just going to be coloring in some of the leaves. Then, like this one, I'll just go over it with some water and get it to blend nicely. And you can do glazing over this. So I really do love these watercolor pencils. Let me actually show you the other thing that you can do. So if I wanted to shadow in a little bit of this, I could. I like using the side of my watercolor pencil leads because I just feel these especially, they're quite soft, and I don't want to bend that tip. So I tend to kind of use my watercolor pencils on their side, and you really don't need a whole lot, that you'll see here in just a minute. So let's just do this. And then I'm gonna wet my brush. I've got water and a rinse water. So my brush is not dripping, but it's wet, it's damp. And then I'm gonna go in and just start blending that out. Rinse my brush a bit. And you can see here, and this is one of the reasons I really like the Artisto set, is it liquefies really easily. And it's quite blendable, which I really like, because I've used some other pencils and they kind of stayed grainy, so I really like these. Now, the other way I could do this, if I want to have a little bit maybe more control, is I could go on my actual lead. And again, I'm being very gentle because if I push too hard, it's gonna bend that lead. And I can go in here and apply the color like that as well. Blend out that edge. So you can do layers and layers and layers like that. So those are a couple approaches. Now what I'm gonna do right now, and now I got that wet, so it's a little soft. I'm gonna let it dry a little bit, and I'm gonna start creating this leaf. So let me go to my book here, and let's go into, I really like this forest green. That one's pretty. So let me find that one. Here it is. So as you can see, the color is a little bit different. This is a little deeper, darker, but look how pretty it is on there. I loved all their greens. So I'm gonna use some of that in here, and I'm gonna draw on the vein, and then I'll just start kind of mixing some of these colors, just coloring in this leaf, because when I get it wet, it's all gonna blend together. I really like the darker green better, but I don't, sorry if there's a camera shake, by the way. Like that. And when I add water to this, it's really gonna all blend. So I wanna use some pretty colors here. Let's get maybe a little bit of the gold. So again, now the one thing I did notice, what is this one? Is this the gold? This is orange sand. So it's actually not that one, orange sand. So I'm gonna add a tiny bit of that in here. Just kind of here and there, and that will all blend in really beautifully. And then maybe even a little yellow. So why don't we try, let me look at my swatch sheet here. Let's try some of the honey orange. Let me grab that right here. Add in some of that. And if you guys really want, I can repaint that lemon, because I had a lot of fun with it. And then I'm gonna leave this edge that is curling upwards, and I'm gonna make that quite dark. So let me show you, where is my paintbrush here? Oh, here it is. It's tucked in. So my paintbrushes are quite snappy. In my subscription box, I have soft, snappy, all different ones, because I wanted you to get a feel for all. And watch when I start blending this in. Look at the beautiful color. Isn't that pretty? And look at it, really, that again, that's another reason why I loved this brand, because I felt like it blended really well. I've had other brands and they just don't liquefy very easily, and I don't like that. I don't like to necessarily see the marks. So there we go. There's one side. Okay. And now let's go to the other side. And I feel like the snappier brushes blend a little bit better too, because they can kind of get into the texture of the paper. If you had a really soft brush, it might not loosen up all the little particles. So there we go. And you can kind of blend these together. Just like that. There we go. Okay, so we've got a leaf. Now that's a pretty basic flat wash leaf. It does have a lot of beautiful colors in there. So what I can do, you can go in there with a pencil when it's wet, and it will kind of add some color. These are just all the different ways you can use these. Let's see, I don't usually lift, but let's see. Yeah, they don't really lift, a little bit. So that's that, and I'll add more detail into that. What I want to do is find a dark green. I think I'm going to use that moss green. This one's fern. Let me find moss for the edge here that's flipped over. So moss green, let's find that one. I think it's in here. Might take me a minute. There we go. So look at that. It looks lighter, doesn't it? But look how dark it is on here. So I'm going to go ahead and darken this edge. And maybe even this line in the middle. And I am using a little bit of the tip here, definitely. Okay, so that's the dark. Whoops. Goodness. I hit all my pencils with my elbow. Let me move that. Okay. So my brush again, it's just like with watercolors. It's not completely full, but it's enough. And I'm just going to go in and spread that around. So lots of different fun ways you can use these watercolor pencils. They really are quite fun. If you haven't used them, give them a try. And like I said, the wonderful thing is these are so portable. There we go. Okay, so I quite like that. I'm going to let that dry. Let's go into, let's paint. I've got a little flower here. I don't know if you can see it. So I think I've got a lemon tree, and the flowers on mine have just a little bit of color in them. So I'm going to do this one here. Let's see. Let's go back to this. And I think I'll use this periwinkle. Find that one. And I'll show you how I do that. I don't use these all the time, so it takes me a little bit to find my colors. Where is periwinkle? Okay, well, let's go for a different one. Let's use this one. Oh, this is periwinkle. So I'm going to go into the center of my flowers and create some lines. And then when I wet these, they will blend. And I did an exercise similar to this a week or so ago. And then in the center, I'm going to end up going in and I'll put some yellow in there. But let's do the purple right now. So that was dark periwinkle. I'll use my brush, wet it, scrape it off. And now I just wanted a faint bit of color. Pull that out to the edges. So it's very faint. Here we go. And this one. You can almost use that push-pull method too. And I'm going light because we can always get darker. Remember, it's always easy to go darker. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to grab my 8 brush in my subscription kit. It's just a little bit snappier. There we go. And this one, almost done. Yeah, we can always go in and darken. Little bit of water. And there we go. So we've got the beginning of a little flower there. I know it looks really light. Let's just go in. So I could do it this way. I could go in and put some on my paintbrush and go in there if you want to use it more like a watercolor. And keep in mind, what I'm doing right now is wet on wet. So it's spreading already before I even touch it with more water, because I went into wet paint with my brush. So there we go. That darkened it up a little bit. Now I'm going to do yellow in the center. So let's just play with that a bit. I think I'll use a combination of that orange sand. I think that's honey orange. Let's find orange sand. I had these in order as they are on my sheet, and they got mixed up. Here is, that's mango orange. I'll use that. Yeah, that's fine. So I'll go into the center with some yellow, kind of that lemon yellow. And then I'm also going to use some of that mango orange in there. And then just a little bit of water. There we go. Okay, so there is a flower, and I think I'll darken some of that purple up just a bit. Let's see if we have a darker. So you see how precise you can really get these. You can really get some details in there. I think I'm going to use this twilight purple. It's quite dark. And just right in the, yeah, that's what I want. Look at that. So if you were, traveling, how much easier is this than having to have a palette of paint? Look at that. So pretty. And this is layers as well. So I'm layering on this paint. And there we go. I'm quite happy with that. Okay. Now I think what I'll do is, let's go in and create some vein lines. Now, let me just show you, for instance, I can still use watercolors with this. So I'll pick up a tiny bit of olive green, and let's go in and kind of add some, that dark center, like that. And then so that's kind of what I like. I kind of like using both. I think that's kind of cool. And then let's get just a shadow underneath there. There we go. I can even go over this again. And look at that. Isn't that fun? Let's do a couple of the little leaves coming out here. So again, I'll take my moss green. Oh, and we've got some little buds here. Let's do those. Those are kind of fun. So I'm coloring them in with that yellow. And let's put a little orange in the bottom. And then when I add the water, it'll kind of mix it together. There we go. But we can always go in and darken, just like with our watercolors. And I'm happy to share this painting with you as well, the drawing rather. So I feel like I want some green. And I'm just gonna play with doing it both ways so you can see. There we go. A little bit more. Like that. Maybe a tiny bit of the dark green will really make it pop. And there we go. Look how pretty that is. And let's do our leaf here. So we'll start with our fern green. Let me just check that color on my swatch here. And now we'll start coloring that in. Another good tip, by the way, is coloring or drawing in your leaves with a pencil, because when you add the water, it'll dissolve the pencil versus a it'll dissolve the watercolor pencil, so you won't have pencil lines. And then I think on that leaf, I'm gonna add some yellow. Now watch this, so fun. Wet my brush. Look at that beautiful color. Isn't that so pretty? And I'll darken that little lip on the side that's kind of curling over. Let's do this one. There we go. Now on this one, I did leave a little white line in the middle. And if again, I want to, is this the dark green? I want to use that same dark green, moss green. Yeah, that is the darker one. So just draw those little lines. Can shade that out. So, you know, get in there and play with these and see which way you really like working with them. You may like doing both, like me. And then I'll color in once that dries. I'll color in some more layers. And if you're going into this when it's wet, it's going to blend quite easily. There we go. Just playing with some of those colors, and then I'll do that little lip with some dark green again. Look at that. So fun, isn't it? Use some of that dark green. Just adding in some little bit of shadows. Okay. So I can go into another leaf here. Let's go into this one here. So I'll color it again. Make a leaf sticking out. Let's do that center vein. And what's fun for me is combining all the different colors. So I'm giving it a first glaze with that. I'm going to leave a white space down the middle. And then maybe some gold. This is where you can really have fun and kind of experiment with blending these colors. See what colors you like. Where'd that yellow go? It's fun to use a bunch of different colors. Now I'll get my brush wet. Look at that beautiful blend of colors. I've got dark greens in there, light greens in there, some orange and yellow. Get my brush a little wet. Ah, so fun. I love seeing the color combinations. If you like color mixing, you're gonna love this. I know one of our students here that I work with a lot is Bertha, and she's obsessed with color mixing right now. And there you go. There's another leaf. Now I can go into the bottom here with a little bit of dark. To make it look like that leaf is kind of folded over like that. Always kind of fun. There you go. I'm going to make that a little bigger. There we go. Okay, I like that. That is fun. And I can do some more glazing on here if I wanted to add. Let's try a little bit of this gold. I really kind of wanted a sienna. Hold on. Let me find a sienna for some shadowing. How about, let's go with caramel brown. Now let's see if I can find it. Okay. And, ooh, that's a pretty color. Before that dries, I'll just kind of Soften that line. Yeah, that was pretty. The other thing you could do here is if I was to wet all of this, and then watch this. So I'm wetting this side. Now, I'm going to take, if I can do it really quickly here, my sandpaper and my brush, as long as that's kind of dry, and it's gonna give it this textured type of feel there. Isn't that so fun? I hope you can see that. Let me hold it up, and it just looks like those little pits and things on lemon skin. So that's another fun little technique as well. Let's go ahead and do this leaf here. So I'm gonna draw it on, and then let's do that center vein right there. And I'll go back and do that one. Okay. And then start coloring in. Again, you know, play with these fun combination colors and create your own unique colors. There we go. And then I'm gonna wet this. There we go. Let's add a little bit of purple. Let's see what that does. So it almost looks like it's shaded a bit. There we go. And my paintbrush, where is it? There we go. Let's see what that color looks like. Ooh, look how pretty that is. That purple just kind of gave it this shadowy color since it's underneath the lemon. So fun, you guys. I think you're really gonna like playing with color pencils. They're just something different, right? And I left the veins on this one, which I think is kind of cool. See how that purple created a shadow? Oh yeah, I like this one a lot. I love that. And I don't know if you can see all those little tiny details with that shaving. Gosh, I wish you could see it. It's really cool. It makes it just feel textured. Just gonna go over that one more time. There we go. Yeah, I like that. I'm happy with that. Okay, we have one more leaf over here. So I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna make this one a tiny bit lighter. So I'm gonna use a little bit more of the color that's out here. So let's go ahead and draw that in. There we go. We've got our vein, like that. And let's start coloring in. And I'll mix colors here again. Let me draw in that center vein there. Kind of liked how that looked. Isn't this fun? To me, this is so relaxing. There we go. And it's almost kind of interesting to see what colors you can create. Okay, let's put in some of our orange in there. I could even do a little purple up in here so it looks like it's shadowed. I think I will do that. And then some of that purple. I am using the tip here because I wanted to get a little finer line. Yeah. There we go. Okay, now to wet it. See how it just looks kind of funky like that? This is the really fun part. And then when you wet it, it just all blends. Ooh, look at that. Into these beautiful colors. Yeah, I like that purple. I think I'll add a little bit more of that purple. Oh, so fun. It's almost like magic when you get it wet. It's like, ooh, look at that color wet mixed. Then I'm gonna do that lip in dark. So I feel like we could even do this a little darker. I'm gonna do it this way. Yeah. Oh my gosh, isn't that fun? Oh, and then I'll do this here. I could either do with green and purple. Let me show you that because I've been using the olive green out of my palette, but let's just mix this. This is the lip. So sorry if my camera is shaking. And then I'm gonna cover that with some purple. Look at that beautiful olivey green. And that is the purple and the green mixed together. Love it. Now my pencil's a little bit soft. That's why you might see it's a little darker. Okay, now we're gonna get it wet. Watch this. Like magic. Yeah. And I can always go over this with some of my olive green regular watercolors too. Look at that. There we go. Isn't that fun? Oh my gosh, I love it. Okay. Let's add one more leaf over here, but I want to make this one more like this. And I kind of forget the color I used. I think I used moss green. So let's do this one. Like that. And here's the vein. There we go. Let's color that in. I'm liking this center main vein to be white too. I kind of like that. So I'm going to leave that white. So I color this in. Let's see, what color should we add with that? Let's do a little, let's see, what other green do I have? Ooh, let's just play with apple green. Just see what that looks like. It might be, this reminds me of like yellow green. Let's just play with the color though. And now because this is under these other leaves, I'll probably go in and again, add that touch of purple. Ooh, I can't wait to see what that color comes out like. Get my brush. Ooh, that's pretty. Ah, so fun. Look at that. Doesn't this just make you want to get your pencils out and play? Ooh, that is a pretty color. Now what I'll do too so I remember what the color combinations that I really enjoyed are. I will write them down. I'll note them down here or put them in my swatch book. Yeah, I like that. Let's see if our stipple works to create some veins. Hold on. Let me find my little stippler. I've never tried that. Oh, it does. So that's another way to create some little lines. And there you go. Isn't that pretty? I will probably add another little flower. Hold on. I'll probably add another flower in here somewhere because I feel like that one's kind of lonely. And I keep wanting to darken this, although the flowers on mine in the backyard, they're quite white. Something like that. Maybe the edges. Let's just wet that a tiny bit. Just to soften that edge. There we go. That just softens it out a bit. And there we go. Oh, so pretty. I feel like it needs another leaf over here too. So I could just keep going and going. I really like that color I created, and see, I don't have it written down, so kind of hard for me to tell. Maybe we could do a leaf coming out here. Like that. I really like that color. I think that's really pretty. Add a little bit of, I think I used yellow. Let's get our yellow. And now we'll wet it. I don't know why I keep losing my brush here. Yeah, I love that color too. And I always, purple and green are so pretty together. And there you go. Now I could go in with the dark green. Let's see, is that one? I think it was this one. And create some little lines. And I could keep going, but I hope that was fun for you, to just a few different ways to play with your color, your watercolor pencils. I just think they're so much fun to play, mix, experiment. So many different things you can do with them. I hope you'll get them out. And please pop on over to Patreon and share them with us. Because of course on YouTube here we can't do that. Now this is watercolor I'm adding. Which now I'm just kind of playing, just creating some more color values in here. A little bit of dark. And this is wonderful glazing. Just adding some different colors in here. So these definitely can work together. Just a glaze here. something like that. Okay, well, there you go. If you would like this drawing, I will put it in the posts page if you want to email debbiewalkerart@gmail.com. I'm happy to share this with you. The little sandpaper, we did glazing, we did layering. So really fun, you guys, and I hope you really get in there and give some of these a try. And you know, the main thing, just have fun and play like I did here. See what you come up with and what you enjoy. All right, I will talk to you soon. I'll be right here reminding you, you are an artist, absolutely, just in case you're wondering. I hope you say it to yourself, I am an artist, and say it to others. And most of all, have fun and happy painting.